Hello, my friends. This is Lynda Lippin, and welcome to the Pilates Goddess podcast. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much for coming back and for listening and hopefully subscribing to the Pilates Goddess podcast. It's Lynda, and today I am solo. And we'll be talking to you about how to pick a great Pilates teacher. So I've been teaching Pilates for going on 34 years now. And over the course of time and owning studios and hiring teachers for overseas hotels and studios, I have noticed that oftentimes a Pilates teacher and a client aren't always a great match. And sometimes neither person knows that for a little while. But over the course of the years that I've been teaching, needless to say, I have come across a few cute, clues as to why this is the case and to what we can all be doing about that. Because basically, as a Pilates client, you're paying money and spending your time in usually a one-on-one or, one to a few situation. And that is a lot of time to spend with somebody that you may not necessarily gel with, or who just may not necessarily be your best match. So, as a potential Pilates client, the first thing that you want to do before you even get in touch with any Pilates studios, any Pilates teachers, anything, is think about why you are going to do Pilates. Your why can be anything. It can be because you want to get your body a little better toned. And that is a valid reason for wanting to exercise and do something like Pilates. It could be that you experience, some kind of chronic pain, lower back pain, neck pain, shoulder pain, joint pain. And you've heard that Pilates could be really good at helping you deal with this pain and possibly getting rid of it. You may even have been sent to Pilates by a physical therapist or your orthopedic surgeon or a massage therapist. Now, think about your why, because it really will matter in terms of who you're choosing to teach you. Because if you are somebody who has, say, really bad chronic pain, you need a teacher who specializes in working with clients who have chronic severe pain. And while Pilates is great for everybody, and while Pilates from any teacher will probably help you a little, Pilates from a teacher who really specializes in what you're looking for will be even better. I've told this story before here on the podcast, but I've had clients come to me throughout the years. I've had a client come to me with a severe diastasis recti, with some prolapse and leaking. And she told me that she had been through like 3 other Pilates studios where she never went back to try a different teacher, because they all told her that they were putting her with teachers who specialized in diastasis recti repair. And when she got there, the teachers weren't sure what diastasis recti meant. So obviously she was not going to stay. and pay and continue to do work with teachers who could not address her very specific issue. Again, this could have hurt her in the long run because there's quite a bit of Pilates that really does need to be modified for folks who have diastasis recti, especially with prolapse, and potentially other hernias involved. Okay, so she had a very specific need and needed a specific match. I had a client for many years when I was still teaching here in the studio at Real Pilates in Tribeca. And she came to me when her original Pilates teacher, who she had been with for many, many years, decided to retire and simply stop teaching. Now, this is a woman who is brilliant and such a love, but she has a lot of severe physical issues. She has osteoporosis. She has severe scoliosis with failed surgery for the scoliosis. She also has arthritis and neck issues and a hip replacement and metal in her wrists and in her shoulder. It's a lot going on. And she did all of this research to find somebody. And, luckily for both of us, she found me. And then when she moved upstate and stopped being in the city, I helped find her a match where she is. Because again, you're spending money, you're spending time, and you want what you're spending to have positive dividends coming back to you, right? You want to be getting stronger, to know that you're not hurting yourself. I mean, these are the things that are important, right? Number one, if you're paying a trained professional to deal with your body, you should not have to worry that said trained professional is going to give you things that could potentially hurt you. My clients will say to me, is this okay for me to do? And I can explain to them exactly why it is okay for them to do. If I can't, or if you're in a situation where you ask a personal trainer or Pilates teacher if this is safe for you to do and they can't come up with any kind of really coherent answer, run away. Just run away in the other direction and do not come back. Okay? They should be able to answer your questions. Remember that a first meeting with a personal trainer or Pilates teacher is like a blind date with all of the stress that goes along with a blind date for both parties, by the way. And especially for newer and younger Pilates teachers who aren't necessarily used to dealing with the wide range of people and personalities that can show up in their studio or in their class. But respect the fact that this is a blind date and answer all the questions and perform at your best as a teacher, but also as the client. Ask the teacher all the questions that you want. Find out what their background is. Find out who they're comfortable teaching. Find out what their history of teaching is for people who have your specific issues. If say you have Ehlers-Danlos and you are not just hypermobile, but have, some severe issues that go along with that hypermobility. And you look at your new Pilates teacher or personal trainer and you say to them Ehlers-Danlos, and they look at you because they have no idea what you're talking about. You know that that's probably not the teacher for you. And it's not that Pilates teachers can't learn and grow and help you out, but at this point in time, there are so many fabulous Pilates teachers out there that there is absolutely no reason to have to go through that phase with your instructor. When I first started teaching Pilates, there were maybe 500 Pilates studios in the entire world. And at that point, and there was no internet. Okay. So remember, there are plenty of us who are not that old who were alive before there were, and doing business before the internet, frankly, before mobile phones. So, and that would be me. I'm one of those people. Now, when I first started teaching Pilates, I was teaching in a sports medicine podiatrist's office. Okay. I was getting all kinds of interesting cases. I was getting workers' comp folks who had hurt their backs and hurt their feet. I was getting injured dancers from the Pennsylvania Ballet. I was in Philly at the time in grad school. I was getting injured football players. I mean, all kinds of interesting people. And when I got these folks, I had to sit down and have a conversation with the medical professionals who were sending them to me. And I also had to go to the library and do some research, or go to a bookstore and buy some books and do some research on what their issues were, because there weren't that many Pilates teachers around at that time. And there were clients who were deeply in need of what we did. So I was really lucky to be teaching, with Karen Carlson in a fully equipped Pilates studio in a sports medicine podiatrist's office. But by the same token, it also meant that I had to do a lot more homework in order to be able to really properly serve my clients. And I'm letting you guys know, because I'm assuming if you're listening to this particular episode, you are probably more of a Pilates consumer than a teacher, although I think this episode is good for everybody. You may have had the experience of showing up and working with somebody who couldn't even bother Googling what your issue was before the session, when you let them know what your issue was before the session. You need to know that there are a lot of Pilates, fitness, physical therapy forums online, private Facebook groups, circles, mighty networks, all of these things. And within those groups, teachers actually come in and ask questions like, I just got a client with an L4-5 lumbar fusion. What exercises should I leave out? Or what exercises should I be doing? And I rarely answer those questions, because to me, those teachers should be sending those clients to a different teacher. If you're not sure what you're doing and you're working with somebody who has had like surgery in their spine, there are enough Pilates teachers in the world right now that I am sure that there is a Pilates teacher you can find either online or in your area who has that expertise. And this is, part of the issue right now is, again, everybody has this mentality that there is not enough out there, that there aren't enough clients out there, that somehow there isn't enough business out there, that somehow if you refer a client to somebody else, you are losing versus winning. And I'm here to tell you that that's not the case. I refer out a lot. And I'll tell you why. Partly because, number one, I no longer really have any interest in teaching in a physical brick and mortar Pilates studio. So if clients come to me and they really, really want an in-studio session, I refer them to teachers in my area or their area who are teaching in studio. And the goodwill of that and just the good energy of that always comes back around. Because then when they get a client who maybe wants to do more online work, who has osteoporosis or a specific issue that I can really help them with, they send those clients to me, right? So then I'm first in mind when those clients come through. So, as a client, number one, you're going to figure out why you're going to Pilates. You're going to decide how much you're willing to spend on Pilates. I have had clients who whittled down to one private a week so that they could afford to work with me in particular. But then I was able to give them things to do in between sessions that kept them going. You need to decide if you want more frequent, less expensive Pilates, where you may not be getting the level of instruction, right, that you may need, or whether you're willing to go less frequent, spend a little bit more money and work with somebody who has been dealing with your issue for a long time. Okay. Number two, you need to decide whether you want to be working on just mat and body weight, whether you want equipment, whether you want both. Even for doing in homework, my clients will often work with light weights, they'll work with bands, they'll work with tubing, they'll work with tie fours, we'll work with foam rollers, we'll work with magic circles. Some of them own Pilates studios, and I teach them in their studios online. Some people have, a piece of Pilates apparatus at home, and I'm happy to teach them on that apparatus in their home online. So you need to kind of make a little bit of a decision about whether you want apparatus or not. Now, another kind of phrase that you might see out there related to looking at Pilates teachers is whether they teach classical or contemporary Pilates. Now, you need to know, and you can go back to my interview with Joan Breitbart, which is episode 4. But the distinction between classical and contemporary Pilates did not happen until after the Pilates trademark lawsuit. And I'm not going to go through the whole lawsuit right now, but just suffice to say that somebody had bought Joseph Pilates' estate, attempted to revive Joseph Pilates' trademark, did it in a very obnoxious way by just starting to sue and send cease and desist letters to the Pilates studios and teachers who were working back then, and any organization that was doing teacher training or anything like that. And that person ended up losing the trademark in a class action lawsuit that you can actually read on Harvard Law's website, because it's a very important trademark case, because the trademark office is not usually that into taking away trademarks that it's already granted. So that's when the word Pilates became a generic term. And once that happened, people who came from different teachers in the Joseph Pilates lineage started to identify themselves as either classical or contemporary. So the biggest difference is really that classical teachers have learned the exercises pretty much as Joseph Pilates taught them. They've learned the order of the exercises, and they've usually learned it on apparatus that's relatively similar to what Joseph Pilates invented and what he was working on. Okay. The same spring manufacturers are in existence. Some of the same apparatus people are in existence. And so, that's the thing. When you look at contemporary Pilates, the way they will differentiate themselves is through, number one, using different styles of equipment. So you'll see reformers that have colored springs, that have 5 springs or 8 springs. You'll see megaformers. You'll see reformers that use ropes with risers instead of using leather straps. You'll see machines that have adjustable everything, adjustable length, adjustable height, adjustable foot bar, versus not. Some folks are very much purist about the kind of style of Pilates that they learned and that they taught. I personally have both classical training and contemporary training. I have taught classical teacher training and contemporary teacher training, and I actually see the value in all of it. Now, as somebody who is also a philosophy and women's studies professor before I started teaching Pilates, and, when you're in graduate school, say for philosophy, it doesn't matter what kind of philosophy you're going to do or choose to do moving forward. You have to take preliminary exams and competency exams in the history of philosophy. So you have to show that you have a coherent and cohesive knowledge of pre-Socratics, ancient Greek philosophers, modern philosophers, contemporary theorists, different political theorists, like all of that is important, even if the work that you're doing is not in any of those camps. Okay. Or is moving more towards, post-structuralism and more contemporary theories. So what I found is with Pilates, the classical teachers or teachers who have had any kind of classical Pilates training at all, I find tend to have a little bit better grounding in the method and a little bit more understanding of when they're deviating from the classical method and why. And I think that's important. I think it's important because we are teaching something that, this man invented. And because if we're going to be teaching that in any way, shape, or form, we should have an idea of what he invented. And if we're not teaching exactly like that, we should know why. If you prefer a newfangled reformer that has a lot of adjustable everythings and does all this cool stuff, that's great. But it would also be nice if you had experienced the Gratz or the more classical equipment so that you would know the difference in how it feels and what it works and how it's teaching your body and informing your body. So again, recapping, you want to know why it is you want to go to Pilates. If you have any specific physical issues, injuries, anything like that, you want to make sure that you're finding a teacher who specializes in those issues and those injuries, because if you don't, you could get hurt. Then you want to just be thinking about the kind of certification process and just understand what the terms mean. Okay, that a classical Pilates studio, like where I taught at Real Pilates, is typically going to have Pilates apparatus that is in the style of what Joseph Pilates himself designed and used. Okay, so just know that the minute you're in a studio where you've got tons of adjustable foot bars and you can adjust the length of everything, and there's different strength springs and there's, all kinds of other stuff kind of coming in, that's a more contemporary style studio. And that's fine, because there are fabulous teachers that run the gamut from classical to contemporary, and people who are kind of both or in between like me. It's important. Basically, what I'm saying is it's more your relationship with the teacher that is the most important thing. If we strip away the style, if we strip away the brand of apparatus, what you want is a well-trained instructor who you like, who knows what she is doing, and who understands what you have going on in your body. When I look at some of my Google reviews and, some of my Yelp reviews for my services. I have one particular client, Leslie, who I've never met in real life because she lives out in Seattle and I'm in New York City. And she always laughs because she says that she feels like I know her body better than she does. And even when we're teaching online, I kind of know. I know the knee that doesn't like to straighten all the way. I know the shoulder and the hip that have a little bit of arthritis in them. I know that she has a little bit of stenosis. And so I know that the spine hyperextensions don't always feel great for her, even though she moves really well through them. There's just like these little things that I've already kind of picked up. We also have a relevantly similar academic background or academic bent in terms of how we teach and the things that we like to read and like to teach. All of these things are important, okay? It's important that you get along with and completely trust somebody who you are paying to help you deal with your body. And that is, for the number of clients I've had who have been hurt in classes, who have been hurt in personal training, who have had their teachers judge them. Yes, I have had clients where teachers have basically blamed them for getting injured or for somehow doing something wrong when in fact the trainer is the one getting paid to make sure that those things don't happen. It's really amazing, some of the stories that I've heard about trainers and teachers in groups and private sessions who basically shame clients in public for showing up late or not having perfect form or maybe not having done the homework. You can't shame people who are paying you money for services. That's not how any of this works. If someone tried to do that to me, I would leave. So that said, that, my friends, is how you should go about picking your Pilates teacher or really any kind of service professional who is dealing with your body. Make sure you know going in what you want and need. Make sure that you're dealing with professionals who specialize in what you want and need. And then make sure that you all get along and that you trust that person and that your body is feeling and functioning better as you move forward. Because if it's not, if you're hurting more, if you're getting pushed in a way that doesn't feel good, then that's not the right trainer or teacher for you. Then you need to find a different situation. Okay? So I hope that was helpful. Thank you once again so much for listening, and I will talk to you next time. Thank you so much for listening to the Pilates Goddess podcast. Music brought to you by Nerd Salad. Please leave a review on Apple Podcasts, especially if you liked it. And please like, share, and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thanks.